Greetings, travelers! Thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Mike. This is Earthshine Education. This particular video is going to talk about what is in the sky April 2020. It's not everything that's going to be going on in the sky, just a couple of interesting things that we thought we'd highlight for you. Take a look at this month's menu. We're going to look at the phases of the moon for the whole month. In fact, something interesting is going to happen. This particular full moon is going to be called a, quote, super moon. It happens to be the brightest full moon for the entire year. So there's 12 full moons this year, and, well, this is going to be the brightest one. We'll talk about when that'll be in just a second. We're going to talk about the planets that are in the sky that you can actually see without a telescope, where you're going to be able to find them, how to find them as well. We're going to talk about a meteor shower. This one's called the Lyrid meteor shower. And finally, we'll briefly talk about a very frosty visitor that has appeared in the northern sky. And we're hoping it's going to get brighter and brighter as the month goes along. But first, we're going to start with the phases of the moon. Now, the moon goes through different phases as it orbits around the planet Earth. It has the same face always looking towards us. It's what's called tidally locked. But there's different amounts of sunlight reflecting back to us, which we see as the phases. The first phase, of course, is the waxing phase, which starts out with a quarter moon. April 1st is where we're going to start out. Then by April 7th, the moon will get brighter and brighter until it hits the full moon phase. And again, that will be the brightest full moon of the year. This particular one may also be referred to as a pink moon. Each month has a different name for its full moon. There's one called a wolf moon. There's a strawberry moon. There's a snow moon, and this particular one is a pink moon. There are reasons for those names. I'm not going to go into that right now. There's going to be a whole different video on those. But just to kind of give you a heads up, if you hear the name pink moon, they are referring to the full moon of April. It is not going to physically be pink, just as a heads up. On April 14th, you'll have a third quarter or last quarter moon. The moon enters new moon phase, where it's in the sky at the same time as the sun, so we don't see any light reflecting back towards us. That'll be on April 22nd, and then on the 30th, we'll see it once again enter into its quarter moon phase, first quarter moon phase. If you've never really seen the moon up close or seen how these phases slowly move from one to the other, we'll take a quick peek at it. We're going to go back in time a little bit. This is to March, the end of March, March 24th to be exact. It was a new moon. Now, a new moon would have zero light reflecting towards us. This is just after new moon. That's why we have a little crescent there. As we go along, you'll see more and more light begins to appear. When the bright side is on the right side of the moon, from our point of view, we call that a waxing moon, so in this case, a waxing crescent. As we approach first quarter moon, which will be on April 1st, the beginning of the month, you'll see the mare, or the seas of the moon, the nice dark splotches on the surface of the moon. Almost like volcanic material that is solidified over time. As you keep going, you'll eventually become a gibbous moon. It's not full, it's not a crescent, it's kind of in between. You'll see the moon become a gibbous, I should say. Finally, we enter into full moon phase. A full moon will rise at the same time as the sun is setting. They are opposite of each other in the sky. This will happen on April 7th, and this again will be the pink moon of April. Every night afterwards, you'll see the moon will begin to get slightly dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and that is again due to the moon orbiting around the planet Earth and reflecting back less sunlight. This is called a waning gibbous, or the waning phases of the moon. So it goes from gibbous back into a quarter moon phase. This is the third quarter or last quarter moon. The waning crescent, and then back to a new moon. To end the month on April 22nd. And actually, a couple of days later, you'll actually see the moon once again in the evening sky as a first quarter moon on April 30th to round out the rest of this month. Moving right along, checking our menu once again. Yes, the planets. Let's talk about where the planets are and how you can find some of them. in the night sky. Now, it's very important to remember that stars will twinkle in the sky. If you stare at any star in the nighttime sky, you'll see a little bit of scintillation or twinkling as their starlight gets diffracted through our atmosphere. Planets, however, will appear as bright orbs in the sky. That made them very easy to find, and doesn't matter which culture you talk about, any of the ancient cultures of our planet, all of them looked at the stars at night, and they all made star charts. They made records of all the motions of these different things in the sky. Aztec, Inca, China, Greece, India, doesn't matter where. Everybody looked at the sky and saw these things moving around. The Greeks called them planetes or planetes, I think is how you say that. It means wanderer or vagabond, and so they saw these wanderers moving around the sky. All the stars appear to be fixed from our point of view. They're so far away they don't really seem to move from our point of view. But these wanderers were always moving around the sky. They named them after gods and goddesses, and actually some of those names are still really important today. Now, there were 7 planets recognized in antiquity, but they included the sun and the moon, which we know today are not planets. But we'll go ahead and list the 7 antiquity planets. They are the sun, the moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. Obviously, today we know the sun is a star, and the moon is a natural satellite that orbits around our planet. Again, multiple cultures had different names for these things, and they represented different deities. You'll also notice I put these in a very odd order. I didn't put them in distance from the sun order. I put them in a very specific order that you use all the time, and you probably didn't even recognize it. 7 objects in the sky. 7 days of the week. Yeah, the days of the week are actually named after the different antiquity planets, we'll call them. Sun for Sunday, moon for Monday, Mars was for Tuesday, Mercury Wednesday, Jupiter Thursday, Venus Friday, and Saturn's day was Saturday. Funny how that worked out. But yeah, so these things are actually still kind of important to this day. That's how we name the days of our week. If you've never seen these objects up close, we'll take a quick peek at them. Mercury is very elusive. It is a small, rocky planet very close to the sun. It's not always in the sky. It's not always visible in the nighttime sky or the daytime or early morning sky, I should say. It was briefly visible near the end of last month in March, and you probably recognize that from last month's video. We'll skip along to the next one. Venus has been hanging out in the evening sky just after sunset. Been very, very pretty. You cannot miss it. It is a huge, bright white orb sitting in the southwestern sky. Mars is in the early morning sky at the moment. There's the red planet named after the god of war. Jupiter, the king of the planets, the king of the Roman gods and goddesses, is visible. It's in the morning sky as well. And Saturn actually also hanging out in the morning sky. So right now, really, if you want to see the planets, you want to be up, either be a night owl and stay up very, very late, or get up early before the sun rises and see these objects all together. Eventually going to make a video on each of these planets and talk about them at length, but just wanted to kind of mention them since they are the planets you can see. Also wanted to mention a couple things before we keep going. Some definitions. Conjunction is a word you might hear me say in the next couple of minutes. Conjunction is when 2 celestial bodies appear to meet or pass each other in the sky. It's just an optical illusion from our point of view. They're not actually close to each other. They're not going to crash into each other. It's just the way it looks from our point of view. Aphelion is when an object is in an orbit, in this case furthest from the sun, or from the Earth for that matter. Perihelion is when an object is at its closest point to another object. So the moon, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be very, very bright. It's because it's going to be at its closest point to the Earth this year, and so it's at its perihelion. We've also got opposition. That occurs when 2 celestial bodies are on opposite sides of the sky, which, again, the full moon is actually a really good example of opposition. The sun exactly opposite of the moon in the sky. just some quick definitions. Wanted to get those out there and get them out of the way. Kind of already mentioned all of these things, but again, if you want to see Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, you're going to be looking at the morning sky before sunrise throughout the whole month. If you want to see Venus, you're looking at the evening sky throughout the whole month, and in particular, the Moon and Venus are going to be pretty close to each other in the western sky on the 26th of this month. Let's take a quick peek at some screen caps from a planetarium software called Stellarium, and I will actually put a link in the description box down below for you to download this yourself, or your family, or your friends. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. Really, really powerful tool that is freeware. This is actually on the 15th of the month, so I picked the day right smack dab in the middle. This is looking east-southeast. Just after 4 o'clock, actually about 4:30 in the morning, before the sun rises. We're looking east-southeast, and you see an interesting little grouping. There's 4 really bright objects all next to each other. You're going to see a waning moon in the morning sky. You're going to see Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter all together, just sitting there, like beautiful little orbs sitting up in the sky. If you're into constellations and the mythologies behind them, we'll add some constellation lines here. Let's actually add in some names as well. So Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn all sitting between Sagittarius and Capricorn in the sky. This is part of what's called the plane of the ecliptic. So any of the constellations you usually hear about, what's called the zodiac constellations, those are actually the constellations through which the sun, the moon, and all the planets appear to travel from our point of view. That's actually their great significance in modern astronomy. In modern astronomy, it has nothing really to do with, telling your fortune and things like that. It just has to do with what's called the plane of the ecliptic, which is, again, an invisible line in which the sun, the moon, and all the planets appear to travel from the Earth's point of view. Let's take a quick peek at the evening sky, looking west now, same evening, but a little bit earlier. This is just after 8 o'clock, actually right before 9 o'clock, looking west. And we're going to see the planet Venus very, very brightly in the western sky, sitting above 2 open star clusters. One is called the Hyades. It's the face of Taurus, the bull. It's a little V of stars that will be just to the left of Venus, to the left and down of Venus. And then you'll see a little bright patch of blue stars. Those are called the Seven Sisters, or the Pleiades, or Subaru. They go by multiple names, but they are a open star cluster as well. These are things you see usually during the winter, and we're now heading into springtime, so winter constellations and winter groupings of stars are going to be leaving us very, very soon. So if you haven't gotten a good look at them, take a look over the next few nights, because pretty much at the end of April, these are all going to be gone from our point of view. Also, you can kind of see the winter triangle, which we did talk about in our last video, also in this image. Let's add in some constellation lines. There we go. So you got Orion, the Great Hunter, Sirius, the Dog Star in Canis Major, the Big Dog, Procyon, Canis Minor, the Little Dog, the little hot dog in the sky. You see that V of stars, that is Aldebaran, the brightest star of those V of stars. That's the Eye of Taurus, the bull, and Venus sitting right along the back of the bull. Now, fast forwarding a little bit more, we're looking at the 26th. This is still looking west, west-northwest, give or take. You'll notice that Venus has shifted a little bit higher in the sky, and on this evening you'll see a waxing crescent. It'll be really, really pretty. You're going to have a waxing crescent just to the left of Venus, sitting in the western sky. It'll be really hard to miss. Hopefully you'll have, again, a nice clear sky or a good view of your horizon to be able to see this. Again, still sitting inside of Taurus, the bull, in the western sky. There we go. There's all our constellation lines. So yeah, that's it with the planets for the month. hopefully you'll get a chance to go out there and look at them. What's left on our menu? Ah, yes, the Lyrid meteor shower. Let's take a look at the next subject at hand, the meteor shower, called the Lyrids. Some people like to call them shooting stars. But there's a little bit of definition we need to go through real fast. In particular, the word meteoroid, meteor, and meteorite. A meteoroid is when you have an object that's in space, whether it's a dust grain, or it's a giant rock, or a boulder. It's a space rock, a meteoroid, floating around in space. When it ends up in the gravitational pull of, in this case, the planet Earth, it gets pulled into the atmosphere, hits the atmosphere, and begins to heat up thanks to friction. As it travels through the atmosphere, it lights up like a big fireball. That's when you start calling it a meteor. And that's, again, just a meteoroid that's actually entered into our atmosphere, and it's burning up. That's what people like to call shooting stars. When it's actually on the ground, if it actually can survive, not all of them do. Most of them either burn up in the atmosphere. Some of them actually pop and make a sonic boom when that happens. Not exactly popping, more like exploding really, really violently. But if they do make it to the ground, if you're lucky enough to find one, or if, a geologist finds one, at that point we call it a meteorite. So there's 3 different names for basically the same thing. One's in space, one's in the atmosphere, one's on the ground. Here's just a standard picture of a meteor flying through the sky. Now, it's really hard to capture pictures like this because in the blink of an eye, meteors are gone. They're traveling at a high rate of speed. If you look up, you see a meteor, you're going to say, hey, did you see that? And someone's going to go, nope, I have no idea what you're talking about. Because you're not going to see it. That's the unfortunate thing with meteor showers. You do have to kind of sit up, wait, be patient, open your eyes, stare at the sky, and hopefully you'll see them. Some meteor showers are very active, and you see a lot of meteors falling from the sky, and other ones are not so active, only a couple of meteors every hour. And, that can sometimes feel bad, but it's still really cool to see a meteor. Here's a real quick close-up of a meteorite. So it's actually one that's been found on the ground somewhere on the planet. Some of them are stony. Some of them are rocky. Some of them are even just chunks of iron that have made it through the atmosphere. So it just depends. Not all meteors are the same. You never know till they get to the ground. Actually, sometimes you'll see them glowing different colors depending on what they're made of. So some of them will glow kind of a greenish, some of them will be a little red, some of them will be orange. Just depends on what they're made of. If you do go out to see this meteor shower, I'll show you where to look here in a second. But just wanted to really quickly talk about the tails of a meteor. You'll notice that all the tails of the meteors that you see in the sky seem to point back to a certain spot. We call that spot the radiant. And depending on where the radiant is in the sky, it's usually associated with a different constellation. That's actually where you get the meteor shower name. So the Aquarids, that radiant happens to be in the constellation Aquarius. This particular one is called the Lyrid meteor shower, and so it's named after the constellation Lyra the Harp. It's going to have between 10 and 15 meteors per hour, so not exactly a lot, but enough that you can go and sit out and hopefully see a couple of meteors every now and then. There were some reports of surges in the last few years where all of a sudden you'd see 100 meteors in an hour and then it would just slow down. We're flying through the tail of, some sort of debris field left from a comet long ago. And, sometimes you find thicker parts and sometimes not so thick parts of this dust cloud, so to speak, in the sky. So to find the Lyrid meteor shower, we're going to be looking east-northeast. This is just after midnight on the 21st. It peaks on the 21st, 22nd, in that kind of general time frame, but you'll be seeing meteors every night leading up to then. It's just after the 21st and 22nd it'll start to slow down. We're looking east northeast, and you're only really going to see one very bright object in the sky, and that is the star known as Vega. Now Vega is in Lyra the Harp, so if you can find Vega, you're very, very close. We're going to go ahead and add the Lyrid meteor shower in, and you'll see it's just east of Vega itself. It actually lies between the constellation Lyra and the constellation... Come on, constellation names. Thank you. between Lyra and Hercules. Now, it's really more in Hercules, but it is called the Lyrid meteor shower. So all the meteors you see in the sky are going to be coming from this point in the sky, and as the night progresses, that point will get higher and higher in the sky. Usually, the best time to see a meteor shower is going to be around 2 or 3 in the morning. So at that point, you'll see the Lyrids will be nice and high in the sky. Vega is going to be higher up in the sky. You'll also start seeing Jupiter and Saturn, which we talked about earlier in this show. So really, you want to be a little bit more of a night owl or early morning person if you want to see these things. For this month, speaking of this month, we've switched back to our menu. There's one last thing on the menu. And I kind of said the word, gave it away a little bit ago. We're talking about a meteor shower. It's usually left behind by comets. Well, as it turns out, there's a comet in the sky. And it was discovered late last year. Let's actually talk about it. Yes, a comet approaches. Oh, goodness. But first, let's talk about what a comet is. Well, a comet is a snowball. It's frozen gas, frozen rock, and there's also some dust kind of all mixed in there. And they orbit the sun. Now, their sizes can vary. They're never spherical. They tend to heat up on one side and give off a little bit of gas and dust. When they get closer to the sun, they start spewing out more and more and more of this gas and dust. And they make a huge tail, hopefully long enough that you'll actually see it at night. There's likely billions of comets orbiting our sun. There's two kind of places you want to look. One is called the Kuiper Belt. The other one's called the Oort cloud. Don't worry about those names. I'll talk about those in a different video when we talk about the structure of our solar system. Just wanted to kind of drop some knowledge into your head. If you want to look them up between now and the time I make that video, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you. A comet is going to look something like this. This is a NASA simulation. These frozen vagabonds travel from the outer reaches of our solar system, and as they get closer to the sun, they start to heat up and they start giving off gas and dust. It's really cool animation. Hard to really see how the tail's supposed to be. There's actually multiple tails. You can kind of see it here in this video. I'm replaying it for us. But, well, there's a much better, much fancier diagram that we'll take a look at here in just a second to really give you an idea of the structure of a comet. And, but, oh dear. Well, that looked a lot better in my head. Huh. Oh, not to scale. Thanks. Thanks for that. Yeah, so this is a diagram, not to scale. We've got the sun, the bottom left of the diagram. You've got the oddly shaped core of the comet, labeled nucleus in this one. Just around it, you're going to find a little cloud called a coma. Right around the core, that's where everything's kind of sublimating. All the gases are becoming, all the ices are becoming gas, and all the dust is beginning to kind of separate from the main core of the comet. You're going to see there's two tails. There's one called the ion tail, and there's one called the dust tail. And there's sometimes a little point pointing back towards the sun. That's part of the ion tail. And the teal-ish colored line, that's actually the orbit of the comet. Now, the best example that looks a lot like this poorly drawn diagram might be Comet Hale-Bopp. Hale-Bopp was really, really pretty. 1997. You saw this thing in the sky, just literally reaching over half the sky at night. It was huge. It was remarkable. And here you see very, very clearly there's two different distinct colors. The ion tail, kind of a bluish color, and the dust tail, kind of a yellowish brown color. And the coma, very, very bright point in the core. Now, the comet we're talking about is called Comet Atlas, also known as C/2019Y4. It was found on December 28th. 2019. You can see it depending on the size of your telescope, or if you have some binoculars that are really, really powerful, you might be able to see it there. But it's not very bright right now. We're hoping it gets brighter throughout the month. As it again approaches the sun, it might start flaring up, and when that happens, the tail starts to get longer and hopefully easier to see, particularly without a telescope. Now, we are looking north. This is on the 15th of this coming month, actually of the month of April, I should say. And as you see, we're looking north, and you see nothing remarkable. You do see Capella off in the west there. Comet Atlas is basically parallel to it in the evening sky. Not much remarkable to talk about just yet. It's going to be traveling kind of towards the northwest horizon. Best way to kind of find it is between Capella and the Big and Little Dipper, which are asterisms. They are part of the Big and Little Bear, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. Again, really hard to see. I'll put some resources in the comment box down below, so you can figure out how to find Comet Atlas from where you are. But right now, not really much to talk about. Just wanted to kind of bring up the fact that it is there. If you have some binoculars or a telescope, go out there and try to find it. Take a look at it, take a picture of it, and hopefully, maybe next month's video we'll talk about Atlas again, and it will hopefully get brighter and easier to see. To kind of talk about where the comets come from, we need a different piece of software. Give me 1 second. Alright, we got our software loading up right now. I think I called it Sandbox Universe. It's actually Universe Sandbox. Here we go. Really quickly, just wanted to talk about where the comets come from, and to do that, the best way to take a peek at it would be to open up this software. It's available over on Steam. You do have to pay for it. I'm not sponsored. I'm just using it to my advantage. Let's take a quick peek around. You'll notice all the planets appear to be on a fairly even plane, which I mentioned during the planet section. This is called the plane of the ecliptic. It's just a nice line that almost goes through the equator of the sun, which we have right here. You'll notice everything is moving very, very fast. We are not going in real time. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, the innermost planets, the rocky planets, or the terrestrial planets. As we zoom out, we find Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus and Neptune. Pluto, well, you're no longer officially a planet. You're a dwarf planet. I still love you, Pluto. But you'll notice as we get out further, you start finding these strange objects like Eris and Makemake and Quaoar. These are all small planetoids, or as they're called, dwarf planets. They live out in the realm of the comets. And out here you find all these little small objects that are potential comets at some point. If something disturbs their gravitation, with gravitational pull, if something disturbs their orbit and they start flinging themselves towards the sun, they have the potential to heat up. Now, usually when they pass Saturn or Jupiter, there's enough heat for some of the ices to start sublimating and turning straight into gas, and that's when we start to notice the comet tails. But I really haven't shown you how comet orbits are when they get close. So to do that, we're going to load a simulation really quickly, and we just got to type in comet. Oh god, what happened? What have I done? Yes, good. Alright, there we go. There's our comet simulation. We're using Comet Halley, which is this object right there, floating by. You'll notice it is not on the plane of the ecliptic. Comes in, gets close to the sun, and zoom, zoom, zoom. Goodbye. Flies away. Very, very elliptical orbit. Comet Halley, or Halley's Comet, has a very predictable period. It goes around, comes back around. This comet's been around for a while. Not all comets are like that. Some comets will come in, they'll be seen for the first time ever, and then we'll never see them again because either they burn up and die, or they get flung back out to the edge of the solar system and their period is, 20 or 30,000, 40,000 years. They won't come back. Other ones like Comet Halley are, every 80 odd years, 85, 86 years. They come, say hello, and then go back out. But you'll notice once again, their orbits are very, very strange because they're not along the plane of the ecliptic. They come at very strange angles, either above or below the plane of the ecliptic. On occasion, they can cross our orbit, and that's when they get kind of scary. There was a comet a few years back called Swift-Tuttle, and it actually crossed the plane of our planet's orbit. Hypothetically, if we were in the wrong place at the wrong time, it could have hit us. But you'll notice we're going to got the plane of the ecliptic right here, right along the middle. Look at where this comet kind of flew in from above and came back down around. And this is why we have observatories looking for comets and other objects coming in from deep space, or at least outer solar system space, I should say. You can see that orbit very, very different than Comet Halley. But yeah, we're going to make use of this software and a couple of other software packages throughout the lifetime of Earthshin Education. And there you see it's crossing the orbits of the planets. Very, very pretty. Yeah, so that's enough with this software package. Let's get back to what we were working on before. Alright, well that was some fun. Let's finish up this entire thing. What did we talk about over the last few minutes? Well, we talked about the moon phases. We talked about the pink moon, the super moon. You'll get some cool optical illusions when the moon rises up. The moon will look excessively huge because if you have any trees or buildings in front of it, our eyes try to adjust and make them about the same. And so the moon will look absurdly huge along the horizon. It'll look normal-sized as it rises higher in the sky. We talked about the visible planets and where to find them. Again, 4 of the 5 visible planets, Mercury is not available this month for viewing all that well. But Venus, Jupiter, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn are all out for you to see. We talked about the Lyrid meteor shower. And we talked about Comet Atlas. Yeah, we did everything. We got it all. Perfect. All right. Well, that's the end of the show, I guess. We'll be making more of these videos. We'll do monthly sky updates. Hopefully get them all up on the 1st of every month. We'll be doing some Astronomy 101 videos, and maybe when all this infectious virus stuff goes away, doing some on-site videos at some astronomy locations in and around the state of New Mexico. Because that was kind of the goal of this entire project, was to do astronomy, and then things happened in society, and that's okay. We're going to keep doing these videos. If you haven't already done it, like and subscribe. Hey, there's Stellarium. Forgot to mention that again. If you want to get your own copy of Stellarium, you don't have to pay for it. It is a free-to-use software. I will make a link available to you in the comment box down below. Download it for your Mac or your Linux computer or your Windows computer. And I believe they either are issuing out a mobile version or they're working on it. I have to double check. But there is one available. Let's get these things going. We got the Comet stuff. Universe Sandbox, that was that fun piece of software we used a little while ago. Or maybe it's Sandbox Universe. I always get it mixed up. I'm sorry. I will make a link for that as well. That one does cost you money. If you're interested in that, though, you'll likely need a Steam account to pick it up. And, yeah, gotta do the standard YouTuber thing, right? Like and subscribe. Smash that like button. Ring that bell. This is something that we've been kind of working on for a while. It may not seem like it, but it's it's a project that we've been working on for a while, off and on, and We'd really appreciate it if you shared it with family and friends, people that might be interested in astronomy or maybe have no interest in astronomy. Maybe this makes them interested. Who knows? We'd love to get some feedback. Obviously, we want to improve quality as we go along. We're just kind of using what we've got available at the moment. And we'll keep making more and more videos as long as people like them. We do have some social media stuff available. Not all the names are matching at the moment, unfortunately. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. This YouTube page will eventually have this Earthshine Education name when they actually let us name it. Right now it's just a string of numbers and letters because it's a fresh YouTube upload space. We will have some stuff over on Twitch.com. I am considering doing either live streams of when I put these together, or what I really want to do is try doing a live planetarium show with Stellarium. So we could just do planetarium shows live on the internet. Sounds fun, and something that I really want to try out. And if you think that'd be interesting, let me know in the comments section down below. If you really want to support us, again, just share this content to other people. The more people that see it, the more people that are interested, the more drive and the more will we're going to throw into this project. Right now it's just a passion project that is just something we really want to do. If you really want to support, if you want to be generous and support in a different way, we do have a Patreon account and a Ko-fi or Ko-fi account. We are fueled by ramen noodles and green tea. So if you want to buy us a ramen over on Ko-fi, or if you want to support directly via Patreon, not necessary, but always appreciated. And yeah, that's everything. Be careful out there. Take care of yourselves. May you have clear skies and warm hearts. Take care.